Emotional intelligence is the game changer, the thing that grows your business without burning you out, because you are stepping away from this hamster wheel of constant emotional reaction, from always making everything about you, from always trying to prove yourself right, from always trying to, make sure that you are the smartest one in the room. You are just allowing your emotions to be present and understanding them and not reacting to them. Welcome back to the Emotional Revolution podcast. I'm Kayla Burch, and I'm so excited to talk about this today. So we're going to get right into it. Researchers found that once they followed 1,000 kids for 40 years, they discovered something absolutely groundbreaking. And it was the biggest predictor of success. And that wasn't IQ, that wasn't wealth, that wasn't privilege. It was emotional intelligence. So the ability to understand and manage your emotions turned out to be the game changer. I've been saying this for years, so I'm so excited to talk about this today. And that is what we're going to get into. We're going to actually look at how it applies to your business and your success, and why mastering EQ is that secret to breaking through your own limits and achieving that real growth that you're looking for. So let's just get into it. For me, if you have followed me for long, then you have heard this story, but it is really crucial, and it is such a foundational story. I think that all of us can relate to in one way or another. And that's with just not feeling smart enough, not feeling capable, really doubting our ability. So for me, I never felt smart. I never felt intelligent. Intelligent is not a word I would ever attach to me. Even to this day, I wouldn't say that. I might say I have emotional intelligence, but I would never just say I was a really smart person, just because I have conditioned myself not to truly see myself that way. Now, do I think I'm capable and able? And do I go after things? Absolutely. Yes. And so this is what was a really big story for me, is in my life, I was hitting a wall over and over and over in my business, in my business growth, and even in my ambition. Like I would hit a wall. We'll even go back before I had a business. I hit a wall in my ambitions because I wasn't able to see myself as somebody who could accomplish something. And so that really held me back. And it really prevented me from stepping into this version of myself that I wanted, because I just didn't think I was smart enough or capable enough. And so the really beautiful part around that is, since I had that story my whole life, I had to get things done. I had to, succeed. I had to get by. And so even though I had that self-doubt, I was able to master my own emotional intelligence and start to rework things in my own mind. So I didn't completely erase the feeling that I was stupid. I was still doing things in spite of me being what I felt like I was dumb. But what I did was I learned how to adapt, right? I had the adaptability, and I didn't allow certain limitations that I felt like I had to stop me completely. I got creative and found other ways to move forward. And I think that's a really big part, is that oftentimes when we have what are these perceived limitations, we get really creative in how we move forward with them. And so for me, I didn't allow that limitation or that belief to hold me back. And so when that translated to my business, I was already well skilled in that ability for myself. And it really impacted my self-doubt. It really impacted my overwhelm. It really impacted my ability to see my patterns that I had, because I was already so aware of them along the way. I think this is really powerful, because we really get into this understanding of how we start to pick apart how we feel about ourselves, how we see, and how we react to our external environment. And how we react to our external environment has everything to do with how we feel in our internal environment. And so if we're constantly reacting to something else, we're not showing up strongly. So this study was a 40-year study, and it shows how EQ is the most significant predictor of financial success. And so emotional intelligence directly influences decision making. It influences your relationships and your resilience. And these are all critical for business. Like I was saying, my resilience was so strong because I always felt like I was coming from behind. So I was always having to find some different ways to make a comeback, or be seen, or be heard, or to hide my limitation. So there's a lot of skill that's built in that. Now, you don't have to have the story of not being smart enough to build, emotional intelligence. I'm just telling it from my framework and how I built that emotional intelligence, even when I wasn't being taught emotional intelligence around me. I don't know what your life was like, but I know a lot of people I talk to, emotional intelligence was not a high level of a conversation that you had when you were younger. So that's why it's really important to recognize that EQ isn't innate. We are not just born with emotional intelligence. It's really a skill that we can build. And we do this to elevate our life and our business. And so back to what I was saying about it just not being something that was super common when I was younger and in my environment, we didn't talk about emotions in the same way. We hid our emotions, we suppressed our emotions. We were taught all these different things to not be able to show up. So, how do we develop emotional intelligence if we're not taught it? Well, there's a lot of different ways. For me, I could see that if I didn't master my own emotions, I was going to fall victim over and over and over to my environment, into what other people thought, into all these different cycles that I didn't want to be in. So, really building these skills are absolutely crucial in your life. And we get into this point where we're not blaming everything else around us. So, this isn't blaming the fact that you weren't taught emotional intelligence, as a child and growing up. We don't use those excuses anymore. We don't put ourselves in those spaces of being the victim. We say, how do I gain it? And what does that look like? And so I want to talk about some skills that will really elevate that business and really elevate your business growth when you master those for yourself. And when you stop blaming everyone else outside of you and you take that personal responsibility, that radical self-responsibility for yourself and say, yes, I can shift this. When you can say, I no longer need to blame my environment or my upbringing or any of these other external situations, you don't blame that anymore for your lack of success or your lack of inability to be where you're at right now. And you say, no, this is on me. I'm going to bring this back to me. I can gain the skills that's required. I can master my emotions. I don't have to be super reactive. I don't have to blame everybody else. I don't have to be constantly, feeling like the victim. I can just be present and I don't have to follow every single thing. I don't have to take everything so personal, right? That is when you can really change your business, because that's what I see in the most successful entrepreneurs I know. And for me personally, when I stopped taking everything so personal, when I stopped making it all about me, when I stopped thinking that everyone was out to get me or I was the victim to everybody else's circumstances, then I actually was able to step into a really successful business. And that's what's really important here, is that we bring that back to us where we can control. This is my entire message. So this study is really powerful to say this works. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to understand yourself and your emotions the best. And that's what's going to up-level you, because you're not going to be reactive. Your ego's not going to just jump in and take charge and try to prove that you're the smartest person in the room and then highlight some things that maybe you don't want to be highlighted. So it's a really, really beautiful part. So some skills that are really going to help you elevate your business growth and your success is, first one is self-control, right? So when we have a lot of levels of self-control, like I just talked about, we're not as reactive, right? We're not trying to step into situations to prove how great we are, because we don't need that, because we already feel really in control and really connected to ourselves, right? So it helps you stay grounded. It helps you when you have setbacks, right? If you have a lot of self-control and something goes wrong, you're not just out there, coming from the backside of this, trying to make it right. You're just allowing things to go and you're resilient, right? You're finding something else. You're being creative. You're finding a different way to approach it. You're not taking it personal, right? So if there's a failure or a setback or something that's just not going so well, it doesn't become your identity. It's not, oh, I'm a failure. Oh, this not working means that I'm the worst at what I do. It means this isn't working. What can I do different? How can I pivot? How can I be resilient in this situation? How do I not make this about me and be super reactive to my external environment? And how do I show up even stronger with the knowledge that I have? That really comes into this knowledge of ourselves and looking at things so much differently. Right? So a setback isn't something that pushes us down. It's something that pushes us forward, because we have now gained more awareness about ourselves, about our business, about our environment, about what people are wanting or not wanting. And so that's a really powerful aspect. When we're not taking it personal, we can actually execute. We can actually step into that. And that comes with not being reactive. That comes with really focusing on our own triggers, which of course is something that if you've been here long enough, I talk about all the time. Your triggers are the gateway to your growth. It's the only way you're going to launch your business to the next level is if you're working on what is triggering you over and over and over. And you have to be doing that really reflective practice. And we're going to get into those triggers here in a moment, but I want to talk about some different things as well. Those 3 ways that you can really elevate your business. And that's also with the empathy, right? When we have empathy, this is a big part of emotional intelligence, is that it enhances our client relationships, our team collaboration. It's our ability to connect with our audience and those that we're trying to bring into our life in a very authentic way, right? Because we're seeing things from their lens. We're seeing it from how somebody else might view the situation. We're not just looking at it one-sided. We see it from our point of view, and we do our best to see it from somebody else's point of view. Now, with this, you have to keep in mind, you're never going to be able to see it directly from somebody else's point of view because you're not them, right? We're just doing our best to be able to understand it from somebody else's point of view. And that's what can really make a difference. That's what can take us outside of ourselves and see it from more of this like third party perspective. We can see our point of view. We can do our best to see it from their point of view with the information and the knowledge we have. And that's it. And that really helps us have better communication. That helps us see different perspectives and different ways to be able to engage with others. And of course, that's going to make you more successful. It's also going to connect yourself deeper to you. You're not going to be taking it as personal because it's now not about you. You see that there's 2 parties here. So there's a lot of beauty in this growth as well of understanding the other person's perspective. And that leads right into our communication aspect of this, because when you are really removing yourself and you understand your triggers and you understand why you're reacting a certain way and you have more empathy and you see things from the other person's perspective, not adopting their perspective and not making it your own, but you can see it from that, again, third party view, then this allows you to pitch your ideas. It allows you to resolve conflicts. It allows you to inspire. It allows you to trust your own clarity, your own confidence. It really is powerful. And it helps us have these skills that aren't personal, right? These skills aren't just personal. They're the secret sauce or the thing that grows your business without burning you out, because you are stepping away from this hamster wheel of constant emotional reaction, from always making everything about you, from always trying to prove yourself right, from always trying to, make sure that you are the smartest one in the room. You are just allowing your emotions to be present and understanding them and not reacting to them. Emotional intelligence is the game changer, right? And that's the language we're going to use today because that's what we're talking about. That's what this study was focused on, is how emotionally intelligent you are. What is your ability to be able to connect to yourself, understand your emotions, and not react to the stressors around us? The most successful people in a stressful situation are not reacting to the stress. They are formulating a plan. They're understanding their emotions. They're not attaching to them. They're not making it about them. They are formulating a plan to move forward. They are seeing a setback and they are creating a solution. And that is what is really valuable, because when we stop making things about us, we can actually move forward. And so the biggest thing with what I'm just talking about is, this is where I want to introduce my TRM, my personal method, the trigger response method, as a huge and helpful framework in moving through your triggers and getting and building your emotional intelligence. So the TRM is absolutely beautiful for entrepreneurs, for people who are working on their business, or just in general if you're working on yourself. But we're talking about it through the lens of entrepreneurs today, because what you do here is you break those self-sabotaging cycles, you gain clarity, and you make really aligned business decisions, because you're doing it from a place of emotional intelligence. You're doing it from a place of non-reactivity. You're doing it from a very centered and grounded place that maybe you weren't going to be stepping into before because you were too reactive, or you were trying to gain all these skills in your life, like funnel building and strategy and all these different things, when that's not what you needed to be focused on. You needed to be less reactive. You needed to understand yourself. You needed to see where you were doubting yourself. You needed to understand the triggers and the emotions that are within you so you could step into this higher level of success. Again, it's not the most educated people that are successful. One of my favorite things to listen to is somebody talks about their childhood and how they felt very similar to me. I resonate with that. When they talk about how they've made these successful businesses and they're dyslexic and they couldn't read, very well, and how they don't even write their own emails now, that somebody else has to write them because their spelling is so bad because they're dyslexic. And that really resonates with me, because I'm raising children who are dyslexic. And that is something that's really powerful. And a lot of people in society think that that is going to be a detriment, but I see all of the qualities that make them more creative, that are going to make them more successful. And they are also having to constantly deal with things that are coming up with them and find different ways around it. That was very similar to my childhood as well. And I think that's really important because we focus so much, especially with children, we focus so much on their education, which is great. Not saying ditch education. I'm saying put the emphasis somewhere else. Help them become more resilient. Help them understand themselves and their emotions, and then they'll be more successful. And that's the same with you as an adult, right? So we can look and we can say this with our children. We can help them understand, but you are already raised. You've already dealt with all of these things. And now you're trying to manage that while managing your children. And that can be really, really difficult. And that's where the TRM really comes in to help you understand how you can stop being so reactive. So the trigger response method is 5 steps. I'm not going to go through all the 5 steps here today because I have a resource where you can dive deeper into this, and the workbook will really walk you through it. And there's a video that will help you out as well. So you can definitely just dive into that, and it's going to be really powerful for you. But when we understand our triggers and we say, this is what is triggering me, and this is why, this is what I'm gaining from it, and this is what I want to shift, and this is how I want to react differently, we can really change our environment. We change our internal environment, which then allows us to change our external environment. And that is what is really powerful, because I cannot emphasize enough, if you are not doing this deep work, if you're not evaluating yourself, and if you're not learning, and if you're not growing, and you're staying stuck in all of these cycles and these stories and this resentment and this, all this confusion about who you are and what you can do, then you will stay exactly where you are. This time next year, you'll be exactly where you're at today because you haven't worked through this. Remember, you don't have to be the smartest one in the room. You just have to understand yourself the most. You just have to be the less reactive person. And you're going to be a lot more clear-headed. You're going to be able to manage your conversations. You're going to be able to communicate to a higher degree than those around you, specifically because you're not taking things personal. You understand what your triggers are, and you're taking radical responsibility. Those are the most powerful things that we can do. If we really want to build successful businesses, that's what we have to do, right? So our triggers create our fears. Our triggers create our procrastination. Our triggers create our imposter syndrome. That's what we want to move through. So if you're feeling any of those things, you have to understand what's triggering them. What are the beliefs and the stories and the conditioned responses that you have that lead to that presentation of those things in your life today? And sometimes you may not know. It may be so far off of what you thought it was going to be that it's like, wow, how did I even get there? What does that even look like? This is a really powerful thing that you need to be able to step into and work through, so you can use that TRM to observe those emotional reactions and to shift into those empowered responses, and to be able to up-level your business to the next level. Because I really challenge you to look around and see people that you really, really, really value and that you really look up to. And if you hear them talk for long, you'll hear that they have done this deep work, that they have mastered strategy, yes, but they've done the deep work. And for me to be able to master the strategy, I had to go through the deep work. I had to move through the conditioned responses. I had to move through the beliefs that I wasn't smart enough and good enough and capable enough. And I had to really gain that emotional intelligence for myself, so then I could connect with other people. So then I can be a better communicator. So then I can deliver things with more clarity. So I could believe in myself to even make that connection with other people, to be able to step into that level of success, to create a thriving business. It doesn't start with strategy. It starts with an understanding of yourself. And I can't emphasize that enough. And that's something that you can help, if you have children, help your children with, right? Help your children as you're working through it, whatever that looks like for you. But you need to leverage yourself to be able to grow. And I know I've said that 100 times, but I just think it gets so lost in translation, and it gets so shiny object, quick fixes, quick money, all these different things. They're not long-term, and they also don't lead to success and joy. Success isn't just about the figure that we have. Success is how much we're actually showing up and present and enjoying it, because no amount of money or hustle is going to bring me contentment. So I have to be content with myself, so then my external environment can represent that. Our emotional intelligence is knowing that we don't have to continue to hustle for an outside, gold sticker. That's not what we're doing. We're creating actual joy and stability and neutrality here, because we're not reacting to all the shoulds and coulds and woulds. We are just being ourselves and we're allowing that to be there authentically. That improves your communication. You can share your message more confidently. You can close sales with more authenticity because you are truly stepping into that. This is a really powerful thing. My husband showed me this study. I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. Like this is just something that really goes into what I've been saying. And I love that it was tracked from childhood because the things I hear the most often are excuses. Well, I grew up, poor. I grew up here. I did this. I did that. My family money story, like all these different things. And it's not about that. It's how much you can rebound from a setback. It's your resilience. It's your empathy. It's your understanding. It's your connection to yourself. It's your ability to not take things personally. It's your ability to not react to all of these different things and look at things a lot more neutral from a third party perspective. If you truly want to be successful in life and in business and have a successful business, for one, that generates the money, right? We want to generate the money. If you want to do that while enjoying it and not doubting yourself and not living in these cycles of these habits and then self-sabotage and all these different aspects, and you have to be able to master yourself. And that's going to be the key thing that I want you to focus on and really leverage off of, right? Because emotional intelligence isn't just a personal growth tool, right? It's a business growth tool. And if you don't have it and if you don't master that, then you're going to continue on the same pattern. So it's a foundation for breaking those patterns. It's building stronger connections. It's showing up as a leader. It's allowing you to be the leader that your business needs, that your family needs, that those in your life need. Right. So if you're ready to elevate your business, if you want to master those triggers and your emotions, just download my TRM workbook. There's some different resources in there. It's going to walk you through all of this. It's a step-by-step way to move through your own triggers. I highly encourage it. If 2025 is the year that you are going to get deeper and explode your business, then you have to get deeper within here. So I really encourage you to download that. I think it's going to be really helpful. This has been such a fun podcast today and sharing. And so if you want to continue, subscribe for insights, start showing up for your success. I would love to hear, what are you taking away from today? What's an emotional skill that you're ready to develop to grow your business? And also, what are you leaving behind in 2024?